President, Mr. Vice President, Mr. Prime Minister, Europe is always about dialogue, and that's why it's good to have you here to discuss with Poland, with the Polish Prime Minister, about the future of Europe. And it was absolutely not Europe that brought democracy to Poland. It was Poland who brought democracy to Europe with the first modern codified constitution in Europe in 1791. And the principle of the separation of power was included in this first constitution. And for these principles, the Polish people stood really strong even in dark times, Second World War, under the oppression of the Soviet Union. John Paul II has said in Warsaw when standing in Victory Square in 1979, there can be no just Europe without the independence of a democratic Poland marked on the map. More than 10 million people, a quarter of the population of Poland, was a member of Solidarność. Together with Lech Walesa, they fought for freedom, democracy, and they laid also the groundwork for a free and open, unified, democratic Europe. And that's why we think that Poland is based, we believe in a Poland that is based on the ideas of Lech Walesa and of Jean Paul II. We admire what they did for Poland and for Europe. But today, Mr. Prime Minister, today there are so much questions on the table. People all over Europe and in your country, yesterday, the demonstrations out in the street, there are so much questions on the table. For example, the question, why is the state TV in Poland today more a propaganda TV and not anymore a free, independent media? Why does your government dismiss churches because of their political opinion? You refer to Walter Hallstein. He would be very surprised if he would assess that today nobody knows whether the president of the Supreme Court of Poland is still in office or not. We have uncertainty there. Nobody knows exactly what is today the situation. Why did another member state have to refer to the European Court of Justice on a court case, fearing that Polish citizens do not enjoy the right of a free and fair trial in your country? Why is this happening? And why do peaceful protesters like Władysław Frasyniuk face imprisonment for carrying roses, while nationalists who attacked peaceful protesters are not even facing trial? That are the questions on the table. And I think you missed today an opportunity to clarify these questions. Here is Europe together. You missed today an opportunity to clarify these questions. The founder of the free and democratic Poland, Lech Walesa, has recently said, in the 18th, there was no freedom without solidarity. Today, he said, there is no freedom without the rule of law. The rule of law is in the very roots of Poland and the hearts of the Polish people. And Europe will not turn its back to the Polish people. If the Polish government does not preserve the great Polish achievements, Europe will do so. Ladies and gentlemen, there is another Poland. There is a Poland of the demonstrators, the people in Poland who went out in the street. There is a Poland who is welcoming 18 million tourists who enjoy the freedom of movement, the tourists who admire Poland and the culture of your great country. There is a Poland who is welcoming 4,000 NATO soldiers on the idea to protect our European Union together. There is another Poland, and sometimes I am wondering myself whether you speak here as a PiS government or whether you speak here as a Polish Prime Minister. Do you really have this second Poland in mind? And I also want to welcome some of these NGOs here on the tribune. They are invited by Michel Boni. So thanks for this. And having all this in mind, ladies and gentlemen, you talk about sovereignty. You talk about sovereignty. I want to ask you, when we talk about sovereignty and win back the sovereignty, is then the anti-EU atmosphere which is created in Poland, in a way to say that Brussels is the new Moscow, is this really creating an atmosphere of sovereignty for Poland? And if you talk about the content, and a few of the things I absolutely agree with, Marshall Plan for Africa and so on, when you talk, for example, about taxation, about the initiatives you want to do there, do you really think that your approach of an EU of the nations is really a thing which can work? When you have the unanimous vote in the taxation field in mind, we see that in the Council a lot of initiatives, good initiatives, are blocked because there is always one single member state blocking everything on the taxation thing and so on. Do you really think that such a Europe will work? I tell you, when you talk about the EU of 4.0, a new Europe which is listening to the citizens, I tell you, there is already a Europe which is listening to the citizens, and that is this chamber, the European Parliament. We are representing the citizens of the European Union. We don't need another Europe. I think our Europe is already working very well. Yesterday we had the Bulgarian presidency present, Boyko Borisov, a colleague of you who was present, and who gave us an overview of what we achieved together in the last 6 months in the interest of the citizens of the European Union. And again, in the Council meetings last week, we experienced that the nation states cannot find any more a common ground to go further. And that's why I strongly believe that the European Union, which was founded by Adenauer, you refer to this, which is based on the institutions in the European level, this Europe works, and a Europe of egoism and nationalism cannot deliver to the interests of the people of the European Union. And let me say, Mr. President, let me say a final word. I want to conclude with a personal remark. Mr. Prime Minister, because of your PiS propaganda, of governmental propaganda, I never took the floor here in this House when we spoke about Poland, because I was afraid that my German background can be misused to attack my friends in Poland and others who are fighting there for rule of law and freedom, can be used that the Germans are telling us. That was we experienced sometimes in Poland. The Germans are telling us. I was afraid to take here the floor. And I want to tell you, I'm not speaking here as a German member of the European Parliament. I speak here because 219 colleagues voted for me as group leader of this group. I want to fight for the interests of the citizens of the European Union. And that is what we have to do, not to decide between good and bad Europeans. Let's discuss about the future of this continent. Let's stick together. Let's not divide anymore. That would be a great message if we would hear this from a Polish Prime Minister. Thank you so much.